Internet. I am here with Felicia.
Hi.
From GirlyGore. If you haven't subscribed to her channel yet, go over there and do that now. But right now, we're going to talk about Fear Street.
Okay, so I just finished watching the last one. Basically, this is a 3-film, it's a trilogy that Netflix did based on the Fear Street books that... Did those come out in the 90s? That might be a guess for me.
I want to say 80s, 90s, yeah.
80s,
I feel
90s.
like definitely the 80s and the 90s.
Okay, great. And basically the first movie takes place in the 90s, the second film takes place in the 70s, and then the third film takes place, part 1 takes place in 1666, obviously. And the second part takes place back in the 90s and kind of wraps all of these 3 stories together. And it's basically around a cursed town. That's like the simplest way to put it, I guess.
I think that's the perfect way to put it. Lots of people die in this town. Town's cursed. Yeah.
That's that. Teenagers.
It's R.L. Stine, rated R.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they deliver on that front. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yes.
I don't know. I really wanted to talk about this with you because...
I'm excited.
We haven't really discussed this yet.
No.
We haven't really, like... We've been very quiet.
I haven't talked
on each
about it
other's
with
end,
anyone,
I
don't think. I've just been like kind of secretly watching it in my house.
Yeah, I've only talked about it with Shannon because
Yeah.
we've been watching it together. But, like, so, I really didn't know what to expect going into this. Because, like, Goosebumps is very kid-friendly.
Sure.
And Fear Street, I never read the books. From what I understood, they were basically like Goosebumps for slightly older kids.
I never read them either.
Kind of like Are You Afraid of the Dark, I guess?
Right.
So I didn't know what to expect going into this. And from the opening scene of the first part, which is a complete homage to the opening of Scream.
Yeah.
Right down to certain slow-mo shot choices and, like, the music and just all of it. I was hooked from the first scene.
Yes.
I was like, I'm in. I'm here for this. And the first movie, the 1994 one, basically is an homage to Scream.
Absolutely.
It's R.L. Stine's supernatural twist on Scream.
Mm-hmm. Which I love because I love supernatural movies, and Scream is one of my favorite franchises, so it all worked out just beautifully for me.
Oh, I agree. It's an awesome combo, and I mean, like, you get some... It's a good old-fashioned slasher movie.
Yes, absolutely.
We don't get those really anymore.
Yeah, and the amount of thoughtfulness that was put into, as you were sort of saying, like every shot, there was thoughtfulness and nostalgia and into every single choice made. That was so, it kind of reminded me of like it has the vibe of Stranger Things in terms of just like attention to detail and furious fun. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think I want to point out also this, the film is directed by Leigh Janiak, who also wrote them, like co-wrote them, I think. She did a fantastic job with these movies, not only in terms of what we were just talking about, like all the homages to other films that clearly inspired each of these films, but also just in creating like a really fun slasher movie throwback. Not once, but 3 times, because honestly, I think all 3 of them kind of stuck the landing.
Yes, that's what I was amazed by. It's like, because we always, I mean, in our horror movie culture, sequels, right? So it's like, this is interesting because the second and third movie are not sequels. They are all part of this trilogy, and each of them can stand on their own because they're so good, and they work together so well. Like, I couldn't believe how good it was and how much, I mean, I'm being super dramatic because that's my personality, but how much, like, as we're kind of, not that we're done with this pandemic, we're not, but like, as we're like moving into the summer and like things are opening up again, and then we just get this like euphorically incredible trilogy from Netflix of like all of the things in horror movies that I love, just like all sprinkled into one trilogy. I was like, thank you. I was like, I needed this. Thank you. I needed this joy.
I totally agree. I mean, honestly, this joy is a perfect word. I had such a blast with all 3 of these movies.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I just... There's something very pure about them.
Mm-hmm.
They're very they're like, yeah, they're slasher film. Well, the first two are slasher films through and through, but also like there's the crux of the films is based in like a queer relationship.
Yes,
which I think is we love it. We love to see it, and I mean it's also it's a really well handled one too.
Yes,
it's not like thrown in there. It's glossed over.
It's not like let's make sure we have a queer relationship because it's trendy and it's 2021. It's like, no, this is just like, they feel like real characters going through real teenage shit, like learning about each other, learning about themselves. Like, it feels honest.
Yeah, I agree. And I like that you said going through real teenage shit, because there's something that the first film does specifically that I love. And that is that it treats these tiny teenage moments like these big epic mic drops.
Because that's what it feels like for them.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
That's such a great point.
And inversely, what it also does is it takes death, something huge and dramatic like death, and makes it feel small in the grand scheme of things, because it's so nothing to these kids at this point in their lives when they experience it constantly.
Right, because they live in this town. And, we should also mention there's kind of like a line down the town where we have, so there's Sunnyvale
and Shadyside.
Sunnyvale and Shadyside. So it's like the kind of wealthier suburb, kind of like rich kids, and the kids from like the wrong side of the track, blah, 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 blah. And so we also have kind of that going on as well. And then you kind of don't even realize how important that is until the end of the series, when it's like, oh, all of this makes sense. All of this was set in stone before any of these kids were born. It's very interesting.
That's kind of why I love it, is like all the loose ends are tied up by part 3.
Yes, totally. And there's just layers on layers on layers.
Yes.
Like, I'm so excited to watch this again.
Oh, me too. I want to watch them back to back to back.
That's exactly how, so yeah, and as you may know or may not know, they've come out every Friday for the last 3 weeks, which is such a fun summertime concept for Netflix to do it like that. Like, that's already really fun. But then it also creates this kind of like anticipation and buzz. But now I have to watch them straight in a row, because I'm like, I know I'm going to get so much more. Where it's like the soundtrack, the aesthetics, the clothing, everything. I was just like, I am transported, and because I think we all have, like, 90s nostalgia is nothing new. Like, this is a very, like, normal thing. Because it was, a time in America where, like, things were kind of on the up and up for, like, a decade. and that's when we were young, and so I just felt so transported, and I felt so like safe and cozy in that. It's like when you watch Scream. It's like I felt so safe and cozy in that decade. So this, and like, I'm not even gonna rank these today, I don't think, because I don't really know if I could. But I definitely was just like, the 90s was the perfect place to start. Like, I'm sure everyone our age is just like, yes. Especially the music, holy bananas.
Oh my god, yes, I'm so glad you mentioned that. The soundtrack of all 3 of these movies is so good. It's so good, Felicia. I was like, so every good. Single track that started, I was like, yes, perfect, keep going. Like, oh
and
my
I felt
God.
that even, so like, I obviously felt that for the 90s, but I was surprised. I thought the songs were utilized even better in the second one.
Yeah, and I know people were complaining about how, like, oh, there were, like, songs that were not used for the right time periods. I'm like, shut up, who cares? It's great for the vibe.
I could not care less. People are so, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. It's a movie.
Yeah,
it's not a documentary.
This is good. It's great for the vibe. It works. And so, I don't know, I just had a lot of fun with it. Like, I liked part 1 a lot. And then I feel like every following part got better and better for me.
Yes. Because it builds. They really build on each other, and like you said about tying up loose ends, but it's like, it's building layers on top of each other throughout each movie. There's a lot of the same actors from part 1 that show up in 1666 playing different characters, and I thought that was such a great choice, because it kept that, like, it kept it really, like, fun and what's the word? Whimsical. It, like, put some whimsy in there, which was really nice.
Oh, I agree. I think that actually, I liked how that they did that to bridge that gap that you wouldn't have really been able to relate to
Yeah.
1666 stuff as well without
Totally.
that element. But
Yeah.
I think I really want to talk about 1978 because
I
I
mean,
think this might have been my favorite.
It's so okay. So the first one, okay. So go back to the 90s for a second. The first one, I was amazed by, I like nostalgia wise, and then you know when we finally get to the end, we get some very nice gruesome kills. We get one that everybody was talking about on Twitter, and it's super super fun. But the second one is straight up grisly. Like I mean, it gets crazy.
A lot of dead kids.
A lot of dead kids and a lot of like violent. I mean, obviously, the other thing I loved about it too is like the color palette is just so fun. So you're having like all these amazing, horrible, icky deaths in this like amazing green light. Like it's just oh, it's so good. And something that I was excited by as well is like that it goes further than to say slasher and we're adding a witch. It goes even further than that, because like in that cave, one of my favorite things is like that blob of freaking skin, eyeball, sack thing that people touch. Yeah. Like I was like, they have taken it to another level here.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Agreed. I mean, like that's what I loved about it. It was like it was paying homage to all these films that we love, all these great slasher films. I mean, the first one, like I said, very much Scream, and like I know you did last summer.
Totally.
Those type of movies. The second one is paying homage, you know, all the summer camp slashers, Friday the 13th, The Burning,
exactly.
Camp. But like, it takes those movies and it adds an R.L. Stine supernatural twist to all of it, and makes it a lot more interesting than all those movies in my opinion.
Absolutely.
I love, like, don't worry, I love The Burning, I love Sleep.
Me too.
They're great, fun summer slashers, but like, this was more engaging for me than this. A, because I cared about the characters a lot. And
they're like packed. Also like there's no downtime.
Yeah.
It is action packed the whole time.
Agreed. Like once it starts, it doesn't stop, especially in part 2. I mean, part 2, I really want to just take a second to praise Sadie Sink and Emily Rudd, who played like the two lead sisters.
So good.
Yo, so good. Honestly, the main emotional core of part 2.
Absolutely.
Something that is really heavy. And emotionally powerful.
Totally. Oh, and I will say, like, also like the beginning of part 2, when they have her like up on that tree and they start like literally burning her with a lighter. I was like, oh, they're going this dark. Like that was kind of my first clue. I was like, because when I heard about them, I guess in my brain, like not that I thought it was going to be like Goosebumps, but I didn't really realize how rated R it was going to be. Did you feel that way?
Right, me either. Yeah, 100%. I was very surprised at like bits of nudity.
Oh my god, the nudity shocked me.
Gore.
I was like, oh!
Yeah, same. I was like, wait, what?
I was like, this is for kids. But I was like, it's not.
Same. No, I had that moment with the nudity. I had that moment with the bread slicer.
Oh yeah, the bread slicer. Yummy, yummy. Make a sandwich.
I don't know what else to say other than that. Just like when you see the bread slicer, you'll know.
Yeah,
You'll know what we're talking about.
It's insane. But and that's what I wanted so much too, because like, I feel like there's been a lot of talk in our generation about how we miss how dark children's programming used to be, and how it is not that way anymore, and now it's just so light and fluffy, and not that, once again, this is not made for children necessarily, but it kind of is. Like, I feel like if I had seen this when I was like 12 years old, it would have blown my freaking... I mean, it blew my mind as an adult, but it would have blown my freaking mind.
I was blown away by how intense these movies were. I was blown away by how much they got away with on Netflix, like in 2021.
Yeah.
Like production value aside, these felt like the same kind of like exploitation era things that you saw back in
yes,
the 80s, which
they weren't
love.
scared of those things that are actually like, you know, important to the genre. They didn't shy away from like seeing, you know, two people having sex and like boobs and then they get killed. Like, it's like that genre is built on.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. I thought that 1978, for me anyway, was the one that I enjoyed the most. I think because it had the biggest vibes of like It.
Totally.
Like that sort of like coming of age story thing, which I'm a sucker for those in any capacity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thought the age of the characters in the summer camp one. I thought that just the sheer level of intensity and violence and emotional weight to the second one made it my favorite by far.
I think that's true. Even though there are definitely moments in the first one. I'm thinking particularly of when I can't remember any of the characters' names right now. When our main girl sees her like ex-girlfriend at the football thing, and she's now dating a guy, and the guy like squeezes her butt in this very intense way, and you can see like the pain, and then they have that fight together on the outside of the stadium. Like, those were moments where, and we already kind of said this, like, the authenticity of, like, youth in this, I thought was so, so good. But there definitely was something about the second one where it was, like, the emotional weight was heavier. And I'm not sure.
Definitely. I think it might have been the length of it. Because the second one, I think, was among the longer ones, and you had more time to breathe with these characters before all the crazy shit started.
Yeah. Where the first one, it's like, you know, I mean, it started it perfectly with that open at the mall, but like, yeah, it really dives right in, and you kind of do get. Oh, you know who I love, by the way, the little brother in the 90s.
I definitely agree. I love the brother. I love. I think the thing that I love, the person who I really want to give a shout out to is Alice in the second one.
It's a good character.
I didn't expect to love her, but I ended up really loving her.
She reads as unlikable, and then she comes around. Yeah,
and that's what I loved about the second one, is that like, so the first one is very good on its own, but the first one for all of the character arcs to get to where they're going, you have to watch the end of the third one.
That's a great point. Yeah, that's true.
The second one,
it's start to finish. That's such a great point. You're so smart.
So do we want to talk about 1666?
Yes. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, the third part goes way back in time to when this town was first cursed. And we are seeing the events told through the eyes of the supposed witch, Sarah Fear.
Yes. And we've heard a lot about Sarah Fear before this.
Yes.
And now we're finally getting to meet her.
Yes, but we're getting to meet her as our main character from the 90s.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting.
So it's basically, like, it's kind of like that weird orb thingy that I talked about, all gross. Like, she touches this, and then she's kind of transported, so she's just looking through the eyes of Sarah, so we as audience members see that same 90s actress. And honestly, like, in part one, I wasn't 100% convinced that actress was amazing. And by the end of part 3, I was like, this actress is amazing.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think part 3 is where she really nails it.
Yeah. And their freaking old English accents killed me.
Oh, me too.
I thought that was so funny.
It was, I really thought that made me chuckle.
It's another thing that kind of verges on the edge of silly, but in a way that somehow works.
Yeah. It works with the vibe. It works with the vibe of the rest of the movies. But what I really loved about like, I was hoping for more slasher content. So for the third one to go back in time and do like a period piece in the style of like The Witch.
Yeah.
Or
like, it's very Salem Witch Trials feeling.
Oh, very much.
Vibes.
It's the Crucible, but with an R.L. Stine supernatural twist again.
Yes. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And I really I didn't expect to like it, but I really, really liked it. I love the main the fact that all of this, everything in all three of these films boils down to love and relationships.
Yeah.
And so much of this story...
And sacrifice.
Yes, and sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so much of the story is based in, like, is centered around that, like I said, like a queer relationship. And I think that it's beautiful, especially for that to be the key factor in part 3. Mm-hmm. That is sort of how this all ties together in a way that feels very earned and very justified.
Yeah. And part 3, because, like, I was in a similar boat where I assumed that would be the one I liked the least. Like, that my brain just assumed that based on, like, the poster and, like, I was like, oh, this old-timiness of this. But it's like they do a couple things. Like, first of all, they surprise you because they have these actors from the 90s now and these new characters. So there's like this kind of like funsies there. And then what they do is they keep the grisliness of the second one that we've now grown to expect. And there's always something terrifying to me about kind of this like Protestant church.
Oh yeah.
Devil.
Very culty.
Yeah, it's just like it's already spooky, and then what they show you in that, like how the initial murder that this curse was started with, it's almost like the most gruesome of all of them.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's very shocking considering like everything seems fairly normal up to that point, and then suddenly just like bam, blindsides you again.
Yeah.
All the initial moments of violence in these movies are very shocking.
Yes.
Because they always just come out of nowhere. And, and I think that, this one is... I was expecting to be the least interested in this one, too. And I was surprised at how wrong I was.
Yeah. Especially
considering I didn't expect the back half of this movie to be part 2 of 1994.
Right. No, I didn't expect that either. Yeah. And sorry.
Oh no, it's okay.
I was also gonna say that I was also excited to see what the Sarah Fier legend really was, because I assumed it was some sort of like persecuted woman, blah blah blah, but I was it was funny because like I was kind of gonna be down for her to be doing deals with the devil.
Right.
Like, I was, like, down for that. I was like, yeah, Sarah Fier, she probably had to do that. It's fine. Like, and then for it to kind of unfold of, like, her sacrificing herself and, like, her not even being the one responsible for any of it.
Yeah, that's definitely...
Really, I didn't see any of that coming.
Well, at the beginning, I was like, oh, I feel like she was innocent. And then, in part 2, I was like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, I was like, maybe not.
And then in part 3, I was like, no, okay. And then, but the way they went about it was something I didn't expect.
Yeah.
Like, I figured it was something like, oh, she summoned the devil for, like, revenge or something, or...
Totally.
No, the reality
blah, blah,
is so much worse,
yeah.
And the reality is just humans being fucking awful.
Yeah, it's so much more tragic than you think it is. Yeah.
And I don't know, I that element of it, and that the way that Sarah Fier's story ultimately ends, that we know how it's going to end based on the first episode, or first movie rather. Like, the way it ends is still heartbreaking, even when you know it's coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
And not to mention the way that scene is shot and edited, and the score during that's just, so good.
It's good stuff. It's freaking good stuff. And then coming to part 2,
yes,
as we talked about, it ties it all up in every way that you want it to. It just does what you want.
Yes.
It does what the audience would want. It's a very like audience focused film.
Yes, and by that point, you've become so ingrained in this world, not only through, part 1 of 1994, but also through things you've learned about characters from the other films who've survived up to this point, who you just want to see all these people make it through it okay. And it makes for, like, the final act of part 3 being probably the most tense, because at this point it's kind of established that, yeah, we're willing to kill pretty much anybody. Yeah, exactly. that was a genuine concern of mine. Like from part 1, when they, you know, they established pretty quickly that like, yo, we don't care if you're a big name. It's like Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
You know, you assume that Maya Hawke, because she's in Stranger Things, is going to be like, she's going to be okay. No,
not okay.
She gets the Drew Barrymore treatment.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And it's great. I loved these movies. I loved all 3 of them. I really think that they delivered, and I was surprised at how well they delivered.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I love them all. And once again, I'm so excited to watch them again, just back to back. Even though that's like 6 hours, they're all pretty long.
They are pretty long, but honestly, if next time I need like a self-care day, that's what I'm gonna do. Is watch all 3 of them.
This is a perfect sick day trilogy.
Yes.
I don't feel good.
God.
I'm in my bed. Give me some cheese and crackers and freaking watch all 3 parts of Fear Street. Like I'm ready for my next cold.
I hope Netflix makes this one of those things that they rarely release on Blu-ray. I think that
I was thinking that people would kill to have this on physical.
Oh my God, yes. I mean, I know that they're doing they're releasing the soundtrack on vinyl. That's pretty cool.
I saw that. That is very cool. That's very cool.
Hopefully, though, that means they understand that people like physical media, and they'll release this trilogy on Blu-ray because it really deserves.
If they put it out, I'll buy it.
People like them.
People like them.
I like them.
Yeah. But yeah. Oh, dang it. So if you haven't seen it, freaking go watch it. What are you waiting for?
Yeah. Seriously, it's on all 3 parts are on Netflix now, and if you like them, talk about it down below.
Yes.
Also, go subscribe to Felicia's channel on GirlyGore, and you can go join Horror Movie Club, do a bunch of cool stuff over there, watch movies. It's weekly, right?
Weekly, every Tuesday night, baby.
Hell yeah. Or you can check out my Patreon down below. Also, Lilith is out on VOD now if you want to watch it. You know, check it out or don't. I don't know. Also,
check it out. It's really good.
Felicia's band is performing again. If you're in New York.
Oh my gosh, this is just like becoming a compliment fest. You're so great. No, you're so great. No, you're so great.
Anyway, guys. Yeah, that's about all I've got. Did you have anything?
Oh, that's it. I'm happy.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you all for watching, as always. Subscribe to Felicia's channel. Subscribe to my channel. Click any of the links down below. And I'll see you next time. Bye, Internet.
Come back from that, motherfucker.